Hey Sandy, just checking that you're able to hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. Can you try again, Sandy? You were kind of a little quiet. I just want to make sure.
Yes, I can hear fine.
Okay, perfect. We're using a different Promethean board, so awesome. Well, good. We're still waiting on a few people, so.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second? Okay. Holly? Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Next up, we have action items. So the first one would be the school reopening operations plan amendments and changes.
I don't have any other, we're still in green, operating along without masks. I think, I mean, the general take is cases continue to remain low in our county, in our region. It's something I still check every single day, get an email every single day with cases. We're kind of bubble every once in a while, you get a case here or there, but our Nespers, city of Nespers zip code hasn't had one in a long period of time. And some other surrounding communities have had a few cases here or there, but I think probably between people having had it and, I think there's multiple factors. People having had it, people that have been vaccinated, and then also the fact that, spring and summer is less likely, given the way the coronavirus spreads, to have surge. I think all of those factors are kind of it working out. Okay. It'll be, I honestly think, there'll be a little bit of this ongoing even into next school year too. We'll be watching. And as I think about next year, I think, you may still have some temporary school closures when this thing hits the school hard, or you start to get a lot of cases. You still might have schools that say, look, we're not going to add to the spread here, but primarily things are going to, be mostly normal. Just continue to monitor it. Certainly still, like we've talked before, the same virus. We just as deadly as it has been.
A year later, though.
It is crazy to think. We were looking at some pictures of graduation last year. And it'll be,
So we still need a motion to approve it.
I don't think there's any changes, so there's no motion needed.
Next up is parking lot bid acceptance.
All right, so I'm going to scroll down. You guys have those in your packet, but I'll put them here too. That's all these. All right. So I'll just kind of walk through what we had. So first of all, according to law and according to our policy, this is kind of a micro bidding process. It doesn't meet the threshold of kind of the most rigorous bidding process, but this is what we're required to do with this at this price range is to solicit bids from 3 or more companies. We solicited directly from 3 companies. I called the 4th that really wasn't interested in doing a bid. You don't actually have to receive bids from 3 companies, but we did. In this case, we got 3 bids. We had done the work with JUB Engineering, to really make sure we had a good description of the work that we wanted done on our parking lot. The first document in your packet is the what they call the engineer's opinion of probable cost. You can see that that price was a construction total of $131,000. That would be if that geotextile, that fabric, was needed. And their actual opinion of probable cost, giving the 10% contingency, was $145,000. Pretty significant expense. You can see the 3 bids that we had by law with this kind of smaller bidding. The board has to either accept the lowest bid or reject all the bids and just start over and say, well, just kidding. But so as you can see, the 3 bids are there. The first bid is by Knife River and is a total of $152,540. That's actually with 7,000 added alternative. So that bid is about 145,000 without the geotextile. And then the other 2 bids are higher. Herco at 177,000 plus, and Poe at 189,000 plus. Yeah. So, I have had some conversations with Knife River, and it is certainly legal to accept the bid and not necessarily, and to enter into agreement with them to not do all of the work that was kind of pitched out. So there is the potential that if the board felt like that this overall price was kind of too much to do at this point, that some of the work could be broken out. And particularly what I was thinking is, perhaps you still do the parking lot section, but don't do this lower section with the buses and the staff parking with that price. Marcy and I visited today about just kind of the overall, and Marcy, you can always add in if you have something too, but my general thought is I think there's room in both this year's current budget to put about 100,000 of the cost into this current year, and it would get us to an ending fund balance of approximately 350,000. Our proposed budget last year had us ending with a fund balance of 270, 250. But we have to be careful. We always budget fairly conservatively, and when I say conservatively, in some ways you're kind of liberally saying how much each section is going to cost. So it's very, very common that we end up, whatever our proposed budget is, our ending fund balance oftentimes ends up in the $100,000 plus range. So we end up about $100,000 better. This would put us in that position. Sometimes we've ended up even higher than that. Last year, we ended up probably closer to 200,000 over what we had proposed in the budget. But
Last year was also
yeah,
odd year because of the expenses.
we had considerably less expenses in the spring of last year, and so that did factor into that. So this puts us in, and the 350,000 on the proposed budget would put us at about 1.8 months, which the goal, at least the board in the past has always had that goal of about a 2-month kind of carryover at that point. So that's 100,000 of it that we could move into that. That's also actually a shift out of about the 70,000 that the board originally budgeted for school building maintenance, and we've really only spent about 20,000 of that. So 27. So about 43,000 43,000 comes from a previously existing building maintenance and slides into grounds maintenance, and then the rest would just be out of the general fund and was not budgeted. But ends us with the 350, and then another 50,000 would be in next year's budget. And really, either way, the project costs 150,000. Just a matter of where you would want to put it. The other thing is, the state requires us to do a certain amount of maintenance, but just for full clarity, and we've always been kind of over like the statutory minimum, but this work on the parking lot would not apply to that because it's not like a student occupied building or anything else like that. So none of those dollars go to that state requirement of kind of upkeep on our building and facilities that way. Oh, but I probably didn't explain everything perfectly, but
The 100,000, would that take care of the majority of what we?
I think so. I mean, my thought would just be to do the project and really, would probably be to do the whole thing. I think 100,000 might come close to that. Probably not quite. You still, you've got some of those flat costs of, you're still moving up the equipment. Certainly, you're probably getting maybe a little lower cost on the mix of the pavement. Your construction traffic control buildings stay the same. Your line paint's going to stay the same. Mobilization's going to stay the same.
Nothing that I'm really, geotextile. That listed as an option.
Yeah.
To me, that's not optional.
Yeah.
That needs to happen.
Yeah.
But Sean, this is an entire bid for down by the shop
That
area.
includes the square footage, down there as well. Yeah, so it's all of that, both. And you're not gonna have the soft spot repair there. You know, the other thing, when we originally got this kind of an original quote from Perco, it was 70,000+. And a couple of things that weren't there is they weren't gonna do the depth of paving that this provides, and there was no like soft spot repair. So we very well could have just recovered or just covered it, and then you know, who knows what would have happened, whether it would have fallen apart or not. So there is a price difference there from when we originally got started on this and had a quote for just north of $70,000.
These quotes, you see 3-inch pavement, that's bus lane and everything's the same thing.
Yeah, and they said that we had that conversation, and the engineer said that would be fine, very sufficient for our parking lot, even with the buses, because they're not high speed. And they just think that would be a problem.
So they also, some engineer came and looked at the site, they're the ones that determined
The 3 inches.
3 inches, looks like there's an 8-inch base underneath that they want put in.
Yeah, that adds, you know, significantly to the cost too. So that was not like on the original quote that we got from Herco. Basically, what Herco would have done is just, you know, scraped off a layer and thrown down some more, you know, pavement at that point in time. But this is hauling in more rock, and that part is a significant part of it. Yeah.
8-inch base is $40,000.
Right.
Where's the, someone came to the end of this. Also, they've taken a foot out, where are they hauling it off to?
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, in the bidding documents that we sent out, that is their responsibility. So I guess it's built into their cost wherever they're hauling it to. And we don't have to. There was some conversation about, you know, like, could we use it for some fill a little bit, like with Kyle? And ultimately, I think after talking to John, it kind of depends on what they end up really taking out of there. If it's
Clay,
right.
rock.
If it's a whole bunch of clay, then John's like, you're not gonna want it anywhere. If it's a whole bunch of kind of rock and gravel stuff, then certainly there is potential use for it. Even if it's like in, you know, down in Kyle's Lake Science Center, like a little bit of turnaround spot or something, you just throw that gravel down and have it be better than mud, I guess.
What hidden cost won't you?
Yeah. This has so that's in the first part of the bid is that removal of that existing asphalt. And it was one of the questions they all had as they were prepping their bids. You know, where did that go? And I ultimately don't know.
It was up to them.
It's their responsibility.
Did they give you any idea of timeframe, would they be able to do?
I think all three, and really Knife River is the only one we're talking about right now, but all could meet that deadline of mid-June to mid-August. My understanding is that Knife River is also doing a project up here for the city. One of the biggest things is, because the timeline is once approved, we have, you know, the city and Kim have a little bit of work to do to kind of cut that catchment basin. I don't know if that's the right word. That catch out front before they actually start with it.
How is?
He's back. I think so. With help from the city, I think it'll be doable. A significant investment, $150,000, kind of shocked me a little bit. You know, I was thinking the other day, like when Prairie redid their track, which was a conversation on continuous improvement plan. I mean, I think that was in the $150,000 range to pave and rubberize the track surface that kids could use. So there is that, like, this, you know, the best use of money. This, I would say, the parking lot and the kitchen were kind of top priorities on our list as far as improvement. My hope would be that with an investment in a parking lot like this, that it would outlast all of us and not be have to tackled by the the school district or taxpayers did for a long, long time. But I don't know. The chunk of land that we just park cars on.
And it was hard because
I know.
like in the meetings, like, I didn't ever bring it up, like in the continuous improvement meetings, because I knew we were kind of doing the work. And so, but nobody brought it up, but, I mean, I, not to say they. No,
Right.
it didn't, other
It
meetings.
did.
The parking lot, yeah. Right.
A top three.
The community don't know how much of a pain it is for Tim and actual
Right.
constant upkeep that it's been to keep it safe for plow snow.
And there is, there's also something to be said, like, well, we paint, all the beams every single summer. Well, maybe some of them don't necessarily, but there is that, you pull up to the school and, you can tell the difference between schools where you pull up and things are falling apart and things are crooked and then you pull up to a school where things are well kept and clean and nice and they take care of their parking lot, they take care of their facilities like they should. And so it sets a tone, and it is. It's not a big sexy project. It's not building a gym or, like I said, paving a track, but it's it's one of those things that have to happen.
Two things, like you said, we did save some money last spring because of COVID, so there is that now. We're gonna go down in the future.
What's interesting in that probable cost, and I don't know, Clint, if you have any other expertise, but that 8-inch crushed aggregate was significantly more in everything than what the engineers estimated, and I haven't really followed up with why.
I can pretty much probably tell you why there, it all depends upon where they're getting that rock from.
Yeah.
And each guy, we're in a whole different, in a lot of areas, we got pits everywhere, but where are they getting the rock? Are they hauling it from Grangeville, they hauling it up from Laughway? And that adds significant into that cost of that. My guess is the engineer assumed that they'd be pulling from a pit close.
Close by.
Normally the rock's not the cost, it's the rock.
Yeah.
And that's why they see such a variance on the bids. Because where each company
Can't get there.
quoted the rock.
But they're all higher.
So with these being $150,000 bid, we're still okay with our bid process. We didn't get too high a dollar figure yet.
No, we're still okay. Yep. What's the next limit, Marcy, on our policy? 250, I think.
No, there's, we can look at that, just by digging out that 8 inches, 40,000 for going back, 18,000 for the extra excavation, and then you throw 7 on for the geofabric. But I like the idea that we're doing that, it should hold up,
A long time.
yeah, rather than just
Covering it.
covering them. I want to say when we were in high school, it was just a gravel lot.
Yeah.
I don't know when it got a paved.
Yeah, it's really not that thick.
No.
It's really not that thick. I mean, it's nowhere near 3 inches. It's nowhere near, it's probably an inch, maybe. I mean, it's just it's stuff that's falling apart. And I agree. So the 70,000, you can say, well, that's 70,000 that Herco said, but I mean, you're just back in the same boat again. And you spent $70,000 to do that. This does seem like a longer term. I was disappointed. I was. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, and so we asked how much they would cost, like, to come up to, like, our driveway. They're already there.
Mm.
Thanks. Right here. So.
Everybody's here.
We are. I said, yeah.
3 minutes to spare.
I
I could have done something else.
We're talking about the pavement bids. Did you
Oh.
have time to look over that?
Did I what?
Did you look over that in the package?
Yeah.
Catch breath, and we can.
So there, and I think even with Knife River and we're still within it, if we want to accept the bid with Knife River, there could be a discussion about, any one of these things. We could make changes still and see what they do as far as, price. This kind of sets the bar and we can enter into an agreement with them. And then if we didn't want to, it is, it's in pretty good disrepair right there next to that. We just put in kind of some new sidewalk down there, but it's muddy where the teachers get out now, where they park. And the same thing with the bus, where the buses are parking.
I mean, we decided we wanted to do this.
I do think it's, and I guess the last piece, but $1,000 on this current year's, which the work won't be done in this current fiscal year, but and we would end up at about a $300,000 ending balance. That's a little lower than I guess what I would propose for a carryover. Or we could put
But it actually
100,000.
doesn't affect it, it's just a matter of how the numbers look.
It really is, or you roll it to next year too. I mean, or you save that $100,000 this year and put it at $150,000 in next year. Because of the work that would be started this year, I would kind of recommend doing that, putting $100,000 in this year's budget, the current fiscal year,
It's our budget is July.
July and September. So they would have some work done, and depending on how they fill it out, they could pay for it. Sandy, just checking you're still able to hear us. I don't know if you had anything else to add as far as the bids.
No, it looks fine to me.
I guess as far as the board, it would be up to you guys if you wanted to make a motion to, accept the bid from, it would be Knife River, or to just kind of reject the bids and keep moving forward in another manner.
You ready? All right, so my motion
And then another piece would be if you wanted to provide any guidance about whether you wanted to kind of chop off this lower piece, separate that, or certainly I can work with them to see if there's anything else to help make the cost, to help cut costs.
Motion to accept the bid as is. Yeah. I'll second that.
Made the motion.
No, I didn't. Motion, nobody made it yet? No, okay, sorry. Okay, well, no, I asked.
Oh, shit. Well, then I'll move to accept the bid as is.
Okay, I don't do this
I
very
got
often.
confused
I
because
know.
he's here now.
I'll second. Kelly.
Yes, that sounds great.
So without Kenshi, that's like just.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, so anyone opposed?
Can I amend my motion or do I need to? What about the budget?
Oh, yeah,
Does that need to be part of that?
I think they need I don't think so. I think that we'll just make you aware of how we'll do that. Do you have?
I was just gonna say 100,000.
Okay.
Please motion.
Right, so, we have a motion and we have a second to accept the parking lot reconstruction bid. Anyone opposed?
All right, we got just resignation.
Okay,
Are you Carrie? You'll just run it. Okay.
So, yes.
I apologize, I forgot.
So personnel resignation, Kelly Zenner submitted her resignation for the athletic director position. Just, we'll recommend accepting that and then we'll have it, or do we have it advertised yet? Not yet, but we'll advertise it. I guess maybe like tomorrow.
Well, thanks to Callie for doing that. It's a hard job and it's really hard to fill, so we appreciate and take it on for however long. So we'll have a motion to approve.
Second. Well,
Any further discussion? Seeing none, anyone opposed? Any?
I have a question. Yeah, we talked a little bit about the advertising, and I know it goes on the website, but it's like embedded.
In the website.
Yeah, and then I know it's Harold, but I just think, and I know it seems that our team members. It needs to be on a Facebook page, it
Yeah.
needs to be on Craigslist, it could be, I mean, all those great advertising.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's,
We've advertised before, like with the Tribune, we don't end up
I
getting,
just think paper advertising is that.
it
I
might
don't-
be.
A lot of times which we just haven't had, Sean and I just haven't had that conversation. I'll say, hey, just put something on Facebook
Yeah.
page, put the link to that page and list jobs.
Yep.
that we have open.
It certainly could be. We
Yeah,
have-
I think sort of that and more.
You're right. And when it's
Yeah.
just on the website, people aren't like actively looking for a part-time coaching job on a website.
Well, even if it is more, I mean, like, it could be one of those, I mean, it's always.
And the Herald still works somewhat here in our little community.
Locally, but
Yeah.
you don't know
Right.
what's out there.
Sure.
You know, really, I mean, like, we have lots of people that move in and new to the area, they,
Might not.
what's the Herald?
Yeah.
So, I also suggested, I, myself, was on the bulletin board, yeah, and I was just.
We'll put some out on social media, AD position and the coaching positions and the other
Bus.
positions. Bus, yes. Good. So the review boundary modification of trustee zones agreement. So every 10 years, the board has, after the census comes out, the board has to redraw boundaries for the 5 zones. And there's some legal requirements that not one zone can't be more than 10% bigger than any other zone. So it keeps all of the zones kind of population-wise the same. In order to do that, you could do it all by hand, but what we've always done and what most every other school district I've talked to does is to have a vendor basically do that service for you and take a look at the census data, and then working with the board, come up with some new lines if they're required as far as the zone boundaries. So what you see in your board packet is just the agreement working through the Idaho School Boards Association and this company that's called Quadrant Consulting to do that census work for us. Our expectation is that the census, the same reason why the Idaho legislature is kind of waiting to officially sign die and go away, is that that in September or October we'll get census data that's actionable. At that point, this company will take a look at that data, take a look at our existing trustee zone boundaries, and then we can work with them to redraw. I don't know.
This is a contract through ISBA and they basically put contracts with
This
work with that.
It's the same company we used for last time.
10 years
I
ago.
can't listen to them.
Yeah.
So. To approve that.
So there is the two, I guess there's the 2 phases. Phase 1 is just reviewing existing school district trustee zone boundaries. Everybody would have to do that. If you if you reviewed those for that cost, that initial cost of down here, $1,900, they take a look at that with the new data and they say, okay, here's the existing ones, here's the numbers. If you do that and everything falls within that 10% rule, you're done. You just pay them $1,900 to do that piece. If redrawing is needed, then it would be $4,350 for both the phase one and the phase two. And then if we wait.
And they read through it last time.
And this is through ISBA, kind of sort of,
Through RISE.
so in essence.
You could go out and
Probably
probably,
see school districts paying the same dollar figure that a little school. district.
I believe that's true. Yeah.
I don't think it's in choice.
I don't think that's true, though.
I don't, but I think the overall work would be the same. So that's why I think it is true. Like they just take a look. I mean, the census data is published. I could be wrong, but the census data is published. They're just gonna have numbers and they're gonna look to see if it's within 10%. And then if they,
The redraw part that was different
for larger districts. I don't know that for sure. I could,
Might be, but I mean, that's it. Well, that's kind of just on it. If we're a little school, could we find someone else to do it quite a bit cheaper? This is the same because it's. But it's also probably not a whole lot.
in that business.
Hey, are you volunteering?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked.
Used them before.
What's the company's name again that they're kind of subcontracting? Yeah, Quadrant Consulting. Some sort of probably legal map consulting. Who knows? They probably make their money every single census. They work for 10 years.
They work 1 year out of 10.
But this is something that we need to now.
Yeah,
Okay.
so basically, I would recommend approving it now because it's going to be a cost that we have upcoming. Their deadline isn't like a date deadline, but it says, once the census data is received. So if that were to be tomorrow, I guess, then we would go up to the new price. It's not going to be tomorrow. The expectation is September at the earliest.
Well, do we have a motion to approve the work? Quadrant two.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I think so.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Any more discussion on that? Okay, let's vote. Anyone opposed? Any? All right, football equipment, we need to approve that they're able to use that if needed for football camp.
The new board members need any, I mean, it's every year it's required by the IHSA. It's a liability thing for the IHSA primarily. It doesn't really change the board's liability. It changes the IHSA's liability, so they require it. Can make it.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, anybody opposed? Anyone abstaining? That passes. Right, next up, the teacher contract.
We do this every year and there's always, good questions about it, why we kind of do it a little bit early, but this helps Marcy to get those contracts out. We send them out, negotiations hasn't been completed, and honestly, we're going on Thursday to the legislative roadshow to kind of start to see what the numbers are looking like from the state. We kind of have a general idea, and Marcy's starting to put some of those numbers together. But this just kind of gets it out. Jackie is still finalizing some evaluations, as am I, but the general intent is that we are, moving forward with the rehire of the teachers that we have. here right now listed. The two lists, this is a category, and then these are the renewable contracts. So these are on kind of not quite as much property rights still, but almost every teacher we have now is moved. These are category 3, which is the final, and then the renewable contract.
We need two separate motions, or can we just do them?
I think one.
And it was also contingent.
Correct.
On
So,
having them.
so it's important that it's contingent on the supplemental levy.
Just the levy passes.
Okay. The levy passes regardless of what the state does.
Right.
All right, so, do I have a motion then to approve the teacher contract? A second? Any further discussion? Vote, all opposed? Abstaining? To our teachers who have stuck it out with us through all of this. Hopefully that really is good.
Should ask this before, but are these all the same? That's what we're asking.
This is, yeah, nobody's being increased at this point. This would be initial, same contract level. That they were.
Now, discussion item, the continuous improvement planning day review.
Yeah, and Andrea and I, after talking, I think we'll just defer till next month because of the learning fair and the interest of time. And Andrea had a nice presentation that she brought to me this morning to kind of review one time, and she was going to talk about it. And I was like, you know what? I think it's better to wait until we have time to kind of digest it a little bit more. And this will get us to the learning fair quicker. So my recommendation is that we just hold off, and we'll do it next month.
And then we're on to report, K-12 principal report.
All right, I'm on a timeline. I might go quick. All right, ISAT testing is completed and the grades are listed for 3 through 10 and science for 5, 8, and 11. We're just starting to get some of the results in, so we'll have more information for you next month, and that's something to share already. Sergeant Middleton, Idaho State Police visited our 5th and 6th graders who have come, I believe, visiting every class so far, and we talked a little bit about bullying, cyberbullying, and all of that. As a person here, he talks a lot about his own bullying experiences, so we took a pretty surprised to be pretty awful. Teacher Appreciation Week, there were many guests brought in, food and beer packages to the Master Service Week, and some other community members brought things to share with teachers. Trash pickup K-12, we have high school going to highways and elementary up through 8th grade going to the town cleanup. I guess Chrissy reported they had a lot to start each, so they did a really good job. Sports, junior high track finished on May 7th. High school track goes to districts this week, and the state will be next week for qualifying. High school softball, they won a couple games. Their last game was great, 31-30. It was pretty exciting to see how they did there. Clubs and CTE, we did have, as the ASB mentioned, a prom that was very well attended because it's really excited to have some normalcy in the life of it. The election process begins this week. We wanted to get to learning fair. Talking to the kids about running for officers, and then they will select their president's class presidents next in the fall. FFA flower sale went well. I know Mr. Stapleton has a website now, and everyone signs up that way. It just works out really, really, really well. Elementary Miles for Smiles. I went to track for the kids probably 3 weeks for about 15 minutes during their lunch hour, and collectively 170 miles. That's pretty impressive. I think almost every kindergarten is even in the mile club, so they really love to run. They'll be collecting their pledges this week and bringing any of their money, and all the proceeds will go to the dollar pledges. End of year celebration is big plan. We have an ASC meeting this week with elementary to finalize some things. There will be hopefully the pool will be open. So we're working on, and there'll be games play, the picnic, well, Jenny will do a packed lunch at the end of the year, so we're moving our barbecue to the pharmaceutical street. And preschool screening is June 1st for the 2021-22 class. Tonight, Marietta is holding conferences with preschool parents as we share. She'll be here for a while tonight doing those. Health screenings are completed for K through 9th. That was vision, hearing, and scoliosis testing. It went really well. Had the parents Amy Wilcox, and she's been in school nursing county on really, really well. Finished even earlier than she thought she would. Junior, senior high school learning care courses tonight. Melanie Francis helps. She does the main organizing of this. Everyone is busy today, keeping things and finishing projects and putting them in the gym. So I know you're heading there. Seniors will be presenting their senior projects for the boys basketball and the walking taco fundraiser tonight, and the elementary hall is open, and there's also a book fair in the elementary library. So people are hopefully heading there. We have our concert this Thursday. I think when I look at the weather, it's supposed to be 77 on Thursday. I think it'll be warm enough. There will be that barbecue in between the elementary concert and the secondary. And I think it'll really help the kids that don't have older siblings called earlier. The junior high has organized a dance that will happen Friday on the 14th. They wanted to know how late they could go. It's in our policy that it has to end at 10, but at 9:30 it will be full start 10 a.m. So they're really excited to do that. Awards and elections for high school will be May 27th. That's a Thursday and a post graduation. The seniors have their tongues hanging out. They're rushing around getting things done. So it's going well, though, I think. Busy.
The seniors are over there tonight for the community, and then on Wednesday, right? They have their
They're judges.
presentation.
It's really good practice to go and present to people going through.
Yes, you could push them a little.
Yeah.
Also, it's not on mine, but with the plant sale, I asked Kyle to bring up a few, but I know he still has, if anybody's listening online or is recording later, that he's still got lots of plants and still selling them after school. So just the ongoing legislative session, we're not signed die, we're still in session. They've taken a 2-week recess, I think, kind of to wait to see how the governor, responds to some of the bills, whether he signs them or kind of prevent him from just, like pocket vetoing it, I guess, is the term. They're not collecting their per diem, so it really is just kind of a pause right now as we wait to see. The budgets have been passed as far as the financial end of things. No more words that way. Just moving forward. IRI ice station, like Jackie reported, we're basically done with ISAT testing and the IRI testing as well. I expect noticeable drop in scores, but not not drastic. We've traditionally been in that 70% proficient range, at least when I say traditionally, like maybe the last 3 or 4 years. I think, I was just looking again today. I expect our English one to be in the upper 60s and the math one to be maybe in the lower 60s. So some impact, I think, from the online learning, etc. But some of that also isn't just COVID, some of it's students moving in and out and other things as well. Ice Station, I think we've seen really good growth in the K through 3 reading. And while we might have started the year behind, we're pretty close to where we normally are. So also, I'll just throw in there as a positive. We also had our juniors their SAT results back, and just kind of preliminary there. I expect they won't announce that until fall. But I expect with our SAT results, and we have a small class that performed very, very well. That we I hate to like jinx it, but we very well might be the highest performing school in the state. That's even compared to some charter schools, because we had some really good junior SAT scores, very, very strong. And so I'm ready to take on a Coeur d'Alene Charter top spot this year. And we'll get some more information out about that too, so. And then events and activities, I just wanted to mention, it was kind of an email out of the blue. We'll see how well you read your notes before the board meeting, but the Highland principal did reach out to me about the Highland board being interested in co-oping, and I was kind of a little bit surprised, but I said, well, you know what, I'll put it out there for board members, and then just kind of start to gauge interest. I don't know if any of you have heard any other conversations or anything like that, but yeah. Other people.
It's no surprise. We're gonna go with the Eagles.
Yeah, I know, right after.
But I was wondering then, as far as the response, I wouldn't want to do it board to board. I think we wouldn't need a motion or anything, but I think it needs to be like our old committee that we used to. That can recommend it for.
Yeah, and I know, like, from previous trainings, I guess just what's simpler, if you do it as a board kind of established committee, then you have like, open meeting requirements and, public posting requirements. If I, as a superintendent, just kind of have a direction to maybe explore it, if that's something that the board wanted to do, then I could also form a committee of community members or have them report back to, I don't know, something the board even wants to consider or not, and it doesn't have to be
So one of the board members, so,
from
great,
Craigmont.
but I mean, I've talked to lots of,
Yeah.
crazy. I've talked quite a bit, actually.
Could be.
Most people. I mean, I think it's always an ongoing conversation, especially if you have a boy and
Yep.
two of the sports that you play, you are co-oping.
And the other sport, both teams are struggling to have a consistent.
Right.
Yeah,
So I think
for the
it-
boys.
it's a little challenge to be a team and then not be a team.
Our numbers certainly are at a point. I know there was an argument before with the two schools that by combining, then you went back up to the next division level. And right now that is not the case. Now, that doesn't mean IHSA can't change things. And it would put us awfully close to that kind of cutoff. Or you'd be flirting with that cutoff mark every single year. I don't think it has to be decided tonight. I just want to put it out there that their principal formally contacted me and we can continue to have that discussion. This high school track, we had 10 students competing. It's the last sport, so softball, baseball was canceled due to lack of participants. Softball, softball, the final game was last Thursday. They finished the year. They did not qualify for the district tournament. And then track on Friday and Saturday, we have 10 kids that'll be competing at various events. And that's down in Lapway. And then we'll just talk more about the continuous improvement planning next month. So that is all I had in my report.
Have one tag on. Just a quick thing about I went to the ISBA executive board meeting, and since the continuous improvement project was mentioned quite a bit in our meeting, they decided to review their strategic plan at their board meeting, and I saw it on the agenda, and I thought, oh, God help us.
Right.
Because it was kind of open-ended. You have 22 people, and what they wanted to do is rewrite this is part writing, but parts of storytelling, rewrite their vision statement and their mission statement. Oh, brother, this could descend into chaos. So I wrote it before I got there. And they introduced it, and Chris, Misty was like coordinating. And I said, well, can I just run one thing by everybody? And I gave it to them, and they passed it without altering. So we were done like in 15 minutes. It was like a score. Anyway.
Well, next time we redo ours.
No.
Yeah.
Ours is good.
Anything else?
Question,
Yep.
Sean, back to that parking lot deal.
Yep.
And then you start off, maybe in the bid package sent out to them. Is there any testing requirements? Quality quality control on them?
So like testing of the,
The asphalt mix, the compaction as they're laying that stuff.
I'd have to go back and look, Quinn.
The quality of aggregate that they're gonna put under there.
There is some language in there in the bid document. I can
Because I don't
send you
see
the,
anywhere on the bid where anyone
Right.
said, the third-party testing, and just curious if there's something in there about.
and I don't
They're
know.
not just laying a bunch of clay underneath and calling it the 8 inches of fill.
Right. There is, absolutely. And I will send out the full bid packet that we sent to them, with some of that language. I can send that to you and all the other board members. Yes, there is. Because also with that aggregate, there's some stuff about how much fines it can have, right? Because otherwise that clay will build back
Yeah,
in.
how it packs, the
And-
moisture content.
Exactly, yeah.
We've done some of our bigger jobs. There's a guy testing right there, test compaction and water content.
Yes, I will send that to you. I don't have it on top of my head.
It's have to do that. Right?
I know they do on roads and that.
So they usually, that's how they start, what is they're paving them, like the parking lot and like all this. Had them come up with the, those are the kind
Do
of.
the test strip right here.
Yeah, and so then that's been huge costing for the county
Mhm.
because they've been tested for these other projects.
Gotcha.
Checks and balances. Yeah, they can do. Subpar materials and it doesn't hold up.
Throw in whatever. Right.
If there's nothing in there, hey, you gotta test it, you gotta hit these compaction points.
I'll go back and make sure you can take a look at that.
Right.
Good
Make a
job.
motion. There we go.
Okay?
Okay, anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? And I think we're adjourned.
What do we do? We do that last one?
Yeah, we
Anyone
did.
could get my-
Just under an hour. All right.
We missed your 45 minutes.
I know, I lost the bet. I lost the bet. See you, Sandy.